started. My name's Lauren. I run our events program here at PERQ. We've been doing these SOFA seminars all the way back to the beginning of the pandemic. So if you guys have joined one of these before or seen one on our LinkedIn or Instagram page, thank you for joining us today. Today we have a really cool conversation with Kristi Bender. She is the marketing manager from BGI Apartments. She's going to be talking about how to really engage residents from the move-in process all the way to making them a renewal and a referral customer. So we're going to talk about what that relationship looks like on site and how to kind of manage that. As always, interviewing her is going to be Mohammed Yasin. He is our EVP of Marketing at PERQ. It's going to be a really fun conversation. During this time, please use the chat feature, ask questions in the chat, ask questions in the Q&A. Mohammed will work those in during the conversation or at the end. And there will be poll questions. So when we pop those up, please go ahead and interact with those and make it a good fun session. So Mohammed, if you want to go ahead and kick it off.
Thank you very much, Lauren. Thanks for the intro. I'm really excited to be chatting with Kristi today. We just met 2 days ago, yes. Tuesday, I think, for the first time. And a woman wearing many hats at the property level, which is amazing. And also, I'm really excited about this conversation because it's one of the first we've had in a while that really focuses in on site, right? The last conversation we had last month really focused in at like corporate level, some of the expectations that they were having going into the back half of the year, troubles they were facing. But really, like when the rubber meets the road, it's all about what's happening on site at the property and how you succeed at that. And you not only have lots of experience with this over time, but you're also even managing multiple pieces and multiple roles. I know your title doesn't quite really encapsulate everything you do, even right now. So I'm geeked to talk to you today. We're going to be going through the whole life cycle, right? We're going to talk about attracting new renters, what that looks like. We're going to, of course, take a trip down memory lane of sorts. Always have to do that. We'll talk about the move-in journey. We'll talk about relationships with the residents while they're actually living there. And we'll also talk about what the renewal process and or potential separation process at the end looks like as well, to kind of round things out. So we'll follow that whole funnel. Feel free, everyone, please drop questions in the chat. Feel free to talk along the way. We'll pull those questions in as well. And also, totally non-business related whatsoever, but I have got to compliment your glasses. They are freaking amazing and I love them.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so let's take a little bit of a trip down memory lane first. We're going to back up and kind of set the whole framework for everything around. You've seen a lot of things happening inside of multifamily and what residents look like. How is engaging with residents evolved or changed over the past, let's say, 5 to 10 years? I think we all know what happened over the past year, right? But there's also those incremental changes that were happening leading up to this. What's different now versus, let's say, 5 years ago?
I could even go back 20 years, not to age myself.
Let's do it. Let's go.
Yeah, you know, your lovely rep, Miss Catherine Benedum, she was selling me black and white print ads and apartment guide a million years ago. So we've definitely evolved from that process and people walking in and carrying their books, going, I found you here. Tell me about your apartments, to people finally evolving to looking online and Googling and using different web resources to find apartments. From now to doing what we're doing right now is virtually looking at apartments, taking virtual tours, emailing, texting, interacting with PERQ on our websites to find what they're looking for, rather than driving from site to site to site to find a new place. And in the past 5 years, that has really narrowed down to the finest detail. People are no longer driving anywhere. People are no longer even really calling. They're looking for what they want online, and then getting their facts and information in order before they even initiate the first contact. And that's really the biggest change, in my opinion.
No, yeah, I would 100% agree. I look back at my own experience, right, in my first apartment in my very early 20s, and what that looked like. And it was picking up print materials, right, grocery store, the little apartment guide book, flipping through them, circling lots of stuff, setting entire weekends aside, a whole Saturday, a couple times a month, right, to go visit multiple places and find out about that. And you know, that search process is completely different now. It is changed, not only for me as an individual, but even, you know, as I look across other people's experiences, they're looking further out, right, for one. But you're right, that experience is mostly happening online, and they're ready to roll once they get to you, and want service that meets all the conversations that they felt like that they were having ahead of time, even though you're starting in some ways fresh.
Mhm, mhm.
It's really interesting. I want to talk about kind of millennials and Gen Z a little bit, because I think a lot of them are really the ones that have changed some of the dynamic of what this renting process looks like, right? I saw Ibby was in the participants here. She's our content manager, and she was wrote an article recently talking about millennials and why they were moving out of apartments. And some data she found that I found personally interesting was the idea that historically it has always been their move out of apartments to maybe buy a home because of family, marriage, kids, those sorts of things. And this was the first time in history that the top most popular answer was that they were moving out because of their dogs. They wanted to buy a house for their dog, right? Like the entire way that individuals are looking at what home looks like, what they need from a amenity perspective, et cetera, has completely changed. What are you seeing for those millennials and Gen Z renters that are coming into your properties? What's different about their renting style versus what you saw in the past?
Well, I mean, the online experience first and foremost, and that's actually something that I struggle with training staff on is, you know, if you're picking up the phone to call people, you're going to lose them. So let's continue contact with how they initiated with you. If they texted you, if they emailed you, if they messaged you through Facebook, that's how you want to continue contact. Otherwise, you are going to lose them. Dogs are a big thing. We just had that conversation a few minutes ago. We all have dogs. I have a house because I have a dog, you know,
Right?
I agree with that. I'm not even a millennial, but I agree with that. And then, you know, I think the second fold of that is the rise of the ESA, which we didn't even get to talk about, you know, the emotional support animal. And
Yes.
whose dog isn't an emotional support animal? And actually it brings me to an interesting subject that I didn't even know we were going to talk about.
It happens in these conversations, right?
Upper management, I've often preached, let's do away with the pet policy. I think the pet policy is ridiculous. Let's do away with it. What do we need to do to stop it? I don't care what kind of dog somebody has, as long as they're taking care of it. And it's been a bit of a hard sell because of insurance reasons. And so how do we get insurance companies to understand that just because a breed is this or that, it's not cut and dry. It's more about ownership. And that's my own personal
Right.
belief. But
Right.
that was not what we came here to talk about.
No, I hear you. I hear you. We had a chat several months ago with Jamin Harkness. He was talking about pet policies, and that was one thing he felt exactly like you, and he actually did away with them there. He dug into the insurance policy that he had and found out that it was an assumption that they had around those breeds, that it didn't actually exist, and he just eliminated it.
Interesting.
Right. And it did impact his retention rate directly. That's where he was making up on the potential possible damage, which he wasn't even seeing, was on very high retention rates, because people felt like that home was that complex was right for them and their animal. Right. He held events centered around dogs. He encouraged people to bring their dog with them when they did the tour, and gave them a little like bandana to wear and all kinds of things, right? Just leaned into it.
Yeah, I love it.
So definitely with you there. So outside, so up front, they are looking for it online. They're coming in. We know the dogs are a thing. What about the experience at the property? Let's say once they get on site, what are they looking for as millennials and Gen Zers?
You know, that's a really tough question to answer because it varies so much market to market and property to property. I'm dealing with primarily Class B and C's. So I'm not on Class C properties, which is going to be a completely different animal, completely different experience. People are looking for what they can afford and is going to be comfortable and where they're going to feel safe.
Yes.
They aren't looking for all the bells and whistles. They aren't looking for the latest and greatest, because if they were, they wouldn't be here.
Not the coffee bar.
Right. Yeah. You know what? I've got a Keurig machine. If you need a coffee bar, that's as fancy as we're gonna get. Does it have washer and dryer connections? Does it have an outdoor space like a patio or balcony? And will you take my dog? That's really what it boils down to at the end of the day. And does it fit within my budget? So I mean, it's really simple. It's really cut and dry, in my opinion, especially once you get into like a B and C. It's an easy sell. And then, I think the other thing, and this is what I have a hard time with training, we don't want to interrogate everyone. And I feel like one of the first lines that always comes out of my mouth. Let's not interrogate everybody. Let's assume that they qualify to live here. They want to live here. Keep it light, keep it conversational. Just get the information you need and move forward. We don't need to really have a investigation under a white light about why they are here and where they're coming from.
No, I hear you there. It's one thing that I think I'm finding interesting what you're mentioning about kind of those B and C properties is that this behavior of online shopping, of doing all the research, like that transcends the property type, right? You don't have to be an A property. You can be a B or C, and you're still having those same types of behaviors being exhibited across that entire, all those different phases or types of renters. Lauren, I want you to pop up the first poll question that we had here. I'm a little bit curious around nurture. Another thing that I keep hearing a lot is, we have people doing these research processes far out, right? They may be 90 or more days out from their search before, and they're already doing some initial maybe touches to find out what's going on, or you've got a lead through an ILS, et cetera. And not all on-site teams are really equipped to nurture something that far out, right? You may not even have availability that far out in some instances, and we're going to get into that a little bit for your property in particular, right? What are you doing to stay in front, or what do you suggest to stay in front of some of those leads, stay engaged with them? You may not get them this time, maybe you catch them next time around, but what do you do when someone's 60 days out, 90 days out?
Actually, I'm working those. I'm writing those. As we started this call, I just had somebody come in and apply for an apartment for July. So
awesome.
I'm doing it. And this is the advantage of a lot of years of experience. I think I know that we are headed into our busiest season of the year. The answer to John, it's PERQ, duh. We are headed into our busiest season of the year. I'm well aware that I have leads already for June, July, and August. So I get a notice for something, I am reaching out to everybody I know that wanted a 2-bedroom for June, July, or August, if it fits that time period. And I'm saying, hey, guess what? I just got this apartment. If you want to bring in your deposit, it is yours. And that's exactly what happened this morning. I sent out an email yesterday, a bulk email yesterday saying, hey, guess what? I just got a notice. First person bring me a deposit gets it. And that's exactly what happened. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. I know you were talking about this on Tuesday when we chatted. You said you got one coming out. You're going to send something out, see what happens.
Yep.
You're done.
I got it done.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
So I've got rentals from, move-ins from now at this property all the way through July. So that's amazing. And that's the market.
Let's go ahead and see what those results look like before we move on to some of the move-in stuff, Lauren. All right, so lead nurture, we've got about 38% are saying yes. We have 54% that are saying no, that they're not using lead nurture, but kind of, interested in doing it. And I think that, to Kristi's point, that's a big one. And they can be as simple as segmenting who's ready to move in when, what do I need to send them, right? And I think there's a lot of really good information out there, lots of conversations, I think, in the community as well about what those conversations should look like, what those emails should look like. They can be very simple. It sounds like yours was straightforward, which I love. There's just like natural language emails. I've got an apartment. It's ready when you said you wanted to move in. Do you want it?
Yeah. Well, and that's, you create that sense of urgency, and this is what you said you wanted. I got it. Do you want it or not? Let's go. Sometimes, it's a personal pet peeve of mine. And this comes from a lot of, I guess, web design and design background. When somebody sends one of those HTML heavy emails with all this
Yeah,
stuff in it, you can't read, you don't know what's going on, and I'm busy, everybody else is busy. I just need to know, do you have what I want? And
exactly.
can we move on?
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
Keep it
and I feel
simple.
like, yeah, exactly. Exactly. Would you send it to me in a text message? Because that's what I need.
Now you're talking my language.
Yeah.
One more email is not what I need.
Right.
So you are in a position right now, we were talking the other day, where availability of your units is really, really limited, right? You've got things popping up semi-regularly, but due to quarantine, you're not seeing a lot of people moving out. People are pretty like staying put. If they like where they're at, which it sounds like they love your properties, they are staying where they're at and not really looking to leave. But you have an opening. Sounds like you signed up someone for that. What's your next steps with them as far as like engaging them through that move-in experience? What are you doing for them there?
Well, so, I'm going to obviously finish up her application, get her approved, then I'll send her all the welcome information, which contains her address, her utilities, all that. And then I'll just touch base with her. And between now and the move-in date, just make sure she's still on target for that date. Let her know, hey, this is what's going on with that apartment. The people just turning keys. We're getting ready to start working it. Works at this point, works at this point. Hey, guess what? We got it ready if you want to come have a look. And that's kind of just, I kind of like to keep the applicant involved through the whole process and just let them know where everything is. That way they know I haven't forgotten about them. And then, when it comes moving time, let's schedule a day and time when you can come out, we'll get everything ready. Here's your keys, bing, bang, boom, done. And then, once they've signed their paperwork and paid their monies and have moved in, then it's, another process that you continue of just want to check in, make sure everything's okay. How's everything in the apartment? Do you need anything fixed? If you've been able to find your way to the grocery store, how's your commute to work? Just some basic conversation to make sure that everything's going smoothly for them. And that's, I mean, I feel like it's just basic customer service, basic hospitality. But it really, really does go a long way, especially when you see somebody and you're like, oh, hey, how's it going? How's this? How's that? And
that can be really easy to forget though, when you're focused so much on nurturing or filling units, like that really human connection, those touch points to make sure that they're continuously engaged. There can be a gap, like for you, if someone's coming in July, there's a little bit of a gap there where they could forget about you.
Sure.
But this is also the time that they're going to be the most excited about your property is now until July, if you stay in front of them, right? Hopefully that continues to build after they get in there. But people, once we get into something, we're getting more used to it. Right now, we're still imagining what that place is going to be like, what it's going to be like to live there, and what it's going to be like to go to the grocery store and put things in the fridge. And you're doing it, sounds like a really good job trying to do some very simple human emotional touch points along the way, just to let them know that you're top of mind. And it sounds super easy. Also, in many instances, if you're doing this at scale, probably pretty easy to automate in some ways as well, mixed in with some more like personal stuff.
Yeah,
I like that a lot. So you get that all done, they come in, right? They're actually on site. I'm going to breeze through this because I really want to talk about renewals for a minute. That's what I'm here for. So you get them on site. You talked about kind of that touch point first of, hey, do you have everything you need? How's your commute like? Are there any repairs you might need that we didn't get to ahead of time that you were thinking of? What are the most important things you feel like folks need to do in that like 30, 60, 90-day time frame to really solidify a great experience and connection between that new resident and the property?
Keep your word. That's number one.
Ooh, that's a heavy one, Kristi.
Well, it really is. I don't ever like to tell somebody I can do something or will do something and then don't do it or don't follow through, or if I say I'm going to send maintenance over, I like to actually send maintenance over. And I know that's not an easy thing to do in this industry. It can get very complicated, very hard, very quickly.
You're juggling a lot of things. It can be easy to forget something.
It really can be. I will say, for all the ways that I'm very tech savvy and tech forward, I do keep an old-fashioned, Catherine laughed at this, an old-fashioned to-do list with a lot of highlights. And that's why I don't forget a lot of things, because I write everything down and cross it off. So keep your word, and then with maintenance, I mean, you've got to, especially you've got to follow up. So, did everything get taken care of? Are you happy? And there are ways to automate that, which I have done. So when every request is completed in our management software, it automatically generates an email or a text message to say, hey, did this get done to your satisfaction? Please, rate us. And then it gives them the option to expand upon that if they want. Otherwise, it's just a click this and move on with life. So I think those things are important. Definitely, just off the top of my head, always keep your word. That's
yeah. Do you have a preference on for those, resident engagement on automated, let's say emails or text messages versus, the old fashioned lists and doing it yourself, or mixture of both? How do you feel there?
We do a mixture of both. It's really kind of property and person specific. Whatever works for one person is what works. And I am not picky about it. If a manager wants to use this because it works for them, then please use that. If I want to use that because it works for me, then that's what I'm going to use. And I don't get my feathers ruffled over any of it. As long as it's getting done, I don't care how it's getting done.
The outcome, not the process, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I think we have 3 or 4 different systems in place that people use. And if you don't like the one, try this one. And then I can kind of rotate you through each different one until you find maybe one you like, because I don't want to sign up for another one, please.
That is so true. I think all of our tech stacks are getting a little bit loaded as of now.
Yeah.
A lot of tech getting purchased, especially over this past year. And last thing we want to do is implement one new one, unless it simplifies and consolidates things, and that tends to be a positive. So you've had a little bit about technology, and I know it's we're talking about BC properties. They are still emailing clearly. They are still text messaging. They are still doing online search up front. What about, and we know that a lot of the A properties are implementing like very serious technology for residents during their time frame, right? We're talking about, the Nest thermostats and the digital key doors and all those sorts of things. Technology kind of plays a big part in a lot of people's lives, though, not just those folks that are living in those like A properties. What types of technology are you seeing that folks are asking for or wanting in the properties that you're managing as residents?
You know what? Actually, I just had a conversation with the resident like 3 days ago about a digital lock system. And I love that idea. Some of our buildings are controlled access. So they have old-fashioned buzzer system and key.
Boop, boop.
I would love so much to put like more of a modern type of, whether it's a key fob or something, app-enabled something on these buildings. And we talked at length about that, and it's not the first time that conversation has been had. And in fact, I've even had that conversation with ownership, and it's something I would love to do. That's number one, because it's front of my mind. Number two is I've been pushing for years to get Wi-Fi at all of our properties, because I feel like that would be a huge selling point.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That is huge. And I think also, I love the idea of doing that at like the B and C properties. I think that, we know there can certainly be some inequities, even though everyone's very tech enabled, that there can also be some inequities in access to website or to the web, right? Where you may have to go, or what device you may have to use in order to do that. Do you have to do all your searching via your phone because that's your only internet access, versus being able to do it on something else?
Right.
So,
well, and even
like
just looking at the trends of all of our properties portfolio wide and how they find us, it's typically a higher mobile than it is like a desktop use. So I just feel like our demographic as a whole would really benefit from it, just based on that little tiny piece of information.
Love that.
If I know everybody's on their phone, then they would love to have Wi-Fi. So
absolutely. So tech got that covered. I assume you're gonna, at some point, you'll end up expanding property spaces or renewing property spaces, etc. If you're focusing on something right now, I think I might know what you're gonna say. What's one area you could focus on that's a good mixture of impact to your community and probably cost effectiveness as well?
That's a tough question. I don't know that I have a good answer to that. because I think I would pick and choose for different properties, maybe.
Fair.
Yeah, we just talked about Wi-Fi, and I want to go back to that because I feel like that's a great idea. Let's
No,
do that. I've been pushing that for years.
I mean, I know that, I love that. That is definitely, that is a big investment to get done at like a building or multi-building level as well, and for consistency. It's hard enough sometimes getting it in your own home.
Right.
And getting it done right. So that's fair. It definitely changes from property to property. I'd be very curious in the chat, for those of you that are on, if you've got spaces that you are intending to improve soon, or intending to add into your properties. What are those spaces, or what are those amenities, and why did you choose those? Right. I think unlimited budget, all of us would do a lot of really cool stuff, but the fact of the matter is we have finite resources, and we've got to deploy them in a way that makes the most sense at whatever property or properties we have available to us. So drop those in the chat. Really looking forward to seeing those. Let's move on to renewal.
Okay. I know you wanted to talk about the most, so
I want to talk about this because really, when we started prepping for this conversation, I was intending to go to this to talk to you about things like, much like we did a minute ago, what does your renewal like nurture process look like? What do your emails look like? How far out are you touching people? What are you doing to make sure they re-sign there? And then I got on the phone with you Tuesday, and you just kind of like wrecked my entire plan, right?
So
Tell me about how you approach renewals. What does a renewal look like to you, Kristi?
we are a non-renewal company, and when I say that, it sounds totally nuts. And what that means is we don't approach renewals. Once someone has lived with us for their initial lease term, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, whatever that term happens to be, we let them remain in their apartment on a month-to-month basis for as long as they choose. It can be another year, it could be another 40 years, whatever. And when I first came here, that was the most terrifying thing I had ever heard.
I can imagine.
I had always been on properties that had done the 30, 60, 90, that had staggered leases. We knew, we had this many leases expiring this month. We had this many leases expiring this month. We'd have to adjust so that we didn't have too many move outs this month. And so I come here and I'm like, wait, what do you mean we don't do renewals?
This sounds like chaos.
This is crazy. What are you going to do if the whole property gives notice 1 month? Because that is possible. And it turns out I was really, really overreacting to that whole idea. So by not telling people that their lease is up for renewal, we are also not reminding them that they can move out. It also gives us a lot of flexibility on doing rent increases or no rent increases. Through the pandemic, we have done none, which sounds crazy, but I also think that that's probably why our occupancies are so well. Our collections are actually really, really good considering. And I feel like those things have bought loyalty out of some folks. We've kind of taken care of them, and they're kind of taking care of us. So that's a really, really positive situation to be in. And then on the flip side of that, we talked about too, is if there's a situation where, someone needs to move, whether of their own accord or of our own choosing, then all they have to do is give their notice and go. They're not bound to a lease. They don't have to break a lease. They don't have to pay a penalty. They just have to give that 30-day notice and go. So
yeah. So Brandon's got a good question here, which was, so if you're not doing renewals, how do you handle rent increases? What does that look like?
Well, we just give a 30 or 60-day notice, and those we will stagger. So we won't do an entire property at once for fear that everyone we gave a rent increase to would move out. We will, when we do our budgets for the year, we do a normal calendar year. So we sit down in like October, November, do our budgets. We'll say, okay, we're going to increase this many apartments per month, and we're going to increase them at this certain percentage if they're below market rate, for example. And it's usually a fairly small percentage unless someone is grossly below market rate. So,
right.
Like 5%, 8% increase, whatever. And then we just send them 30-day notice or 60-day notice, letting them know, hey, your rent is going to go up by this starting on this date. And then they have time to give notice to move if they want. Or they can accept it and stay, and then life just goes on. So
Keeps
it's kind of
moving.
interesting.
The other place that you mentioned handling kind of rent or rate increases was also on those open units. It sounds like you have a lot of flexibility there.
Right.
Tell me about that.
So because we aren't doing in-house increases, anything that I have coming open, anybody that's giving me a notice, any skips, anything like that, I'm increasing those street rents to anybody new coming in exponentially, because the market will allow it. And we, it's, maybe I'm increasing by $100 or $150 over what that rent is currently, and I'm doing it without issue, because even at a BC property, the rental rates we can get are just truly unprecedented. And the fact that I'm renting them so quickly is amazing. So, I've got 30 days to rent it. If I can't rent it $100 over what it is, then maybe I need to reevaluate and take it back down. But that hasn't been the case so far. It's been, within a couple of days of having it available that I've been able to
rent it out.
Rents. So,
but you've still got room there. You basically have built in a testing scenario where you can test the idea. Can I raise this? And can I raise it substantially? You could throw whatever number you want out there and just see if it works, because you've got 30 days and a waiting list basically of sorts that you can work with because of all the loyalty you've built there at the property through the way you're handling renewals in general. It doesn't sound like, what I'm hearing you say is that folks aren't really leaving. Like, they are taking this idea of, I live here. And since you're not reminding them at like 10 months, do you really live here, or should you live somewhere else?
Yeah, and it's actually interesting to see the reasons why people move out. The notice I got earlier this week, she's relocating. She took another job in another state, so she's just relocating. And she even called and she says, "What do I need to do to get out of my lease?" And I'm like, "Your month to month, just give me 30-day notice." And she's like shocked. I'm like, "Wow, okay then." So the reasons why people leave are even more interesting, I think. Yeah, it's not a lot of, I hate my apartment, I hate this place, I hate you. It's more of, I've got this big major life change and I'm doing this. I'm buying a house and I'm relocating. My family's changing something. I need more space. It's just a completely different. In fact, the past year, 2 years in this industry have been unlike anything I've ever seen, really. So
yeah, and those sorts of like life changes can be ones that may be something where you never see them again, but they also can be like revolving doors, right? I've been back to apartment complexes I've lived in the past because I went somewhere else, my situation changed, I needed to come back, and you go back to where you went if you trust that area, or if you trust that community, right? You go back to what you know. And this could be the same situation. She has a jobs change all the time. She could be right back, right? She get a job down the street, like, next year or something. What can leasing teams do to help maintain that relationship through the move out process for folks that are in these life switch scenarios versus just, all right, cool, I guess you're out in July, bye?
Well, I do normally send a confirmation, and it just kind of breaks down everything you need to do. We received your move out notice for this. Your final rent is going to be this. Please return your keys to the office by this date. And then once that's done, obviously we do the move out inspection. And if it's good, I'll let somebody know, hey, your deposit's coming in this many days. If it's not good, then I just don't say anything because we ain't going there. They already know.
I hear you.
But it's funny is actually, I have a guy that lives here that has lived in 3 different apartments over the course of time. So people do come back, and you are absolutely right about that. He lived in a 1-bedroom, he lived in a 2-bedroom, and now he lives in we have what's called a 2-bedroom with a den. So he has kind of made his way around the property. And I think that's funny. There's more than one tenant here with a story like that. And I'm always entertained by how people do that and why people do that,
Yep, you're keeping in front of them though. Referrals, word of mouth. How much? It does not sound like you have to deal with a lot. If you basically had a unit open for 72 hours and you already leased it, so and you did it with an email. Are you using a lot of referrals? You've got a really engaged group of residents there that seems really loyal to your community.
I got a referral not that long ago, honestly. She came in and said, hey, this girl I know is looking, da, 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 so I don't have anything right now. Well, a week later, I called her and said, guess what? I got an apartment. And so her friend came in and applied, and that's basically how the referral works. You know, it's funny being in my position and getting to take a step back and be on site, because I've really, really enjoyed it. So when I have to give this up, I'm going to be really sad.
Yeah. Oh man. All right. So just to recap, and I'm gonna recap, and then I'm coming your way for last words, right? Last suggestions, last advice for folks, specifically folks, as we were going into summer, we are slowly coming out of pandemic and quarantine, kind of, sort of, maybe. I don't know. The weather's getting nice. It's not. It's back and forth here in Indiana. Who knows?
Same in Ohio.
But we have I am from Ohio. I get it. I know it. But we are about to enter into a back half of the year that it can be very exciting, and certainly is going to have a lot of change in it, whatever that change looks like. Very curious to hear your last words on advice for folks, any level, on-site, etc., as they're going into that, to handle that, to succeed in that, to really like thrive in it. In the meantime, as you're thinking through that, a couple of recap things, just as you mentioned, so some themes that I heard in this conversation. Number one was that the outcome is more important than the specific tools and resources you're using. To really be open to that, make sure you understand where you're trying to get to, support your team to get there. A mixture of, organic, or I guess analog and digital sounds like a preferred method for you, which I love, kind of the mixture of that too. I'm definitely a tech guy. For those of you guys that come to this, you know that. I do also keep a written list, right? Because there's nothing like scratching that off the list, right? At the same time, I do love automating an email so that I don't have to write it, because I know I have to write it like 50 times a year anyway. Write it once, push the button, schedule it, put some automation behind it so it can get done, reply, and then organically reply to the replies. That works for me. So I love that piece. General humanization, right, was kind of a theme that I heard throughout here. Speaking plain language, keeping it simple, very straightforward, consistent touch points with everyone, unless maybe you're not giving them their deposit back, then just back up, right? So that was the other thing. And then question the norms of what you may be. Maybe you don't need to have renewals and or a renewal process in order to have retention and do a really great job written your units. So I think that was a big lesson. And I thank you for sharing that a lot. So last words, what do people need to be thinking about going into the back half of this year? What you got for me?
Oh, geez. Be authentic and take your lunch. Like, that's as best as I've got.
That is perfect. That is perfect. I love that. And I probably could use that advice myself as well, especially on that lunch portion, because I am consistently forgetting. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, Kristi. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
Kristi, I love that last note. Please, everyone, take your lunch. And for all of you guys who are on today, thank you for joining us. Some of you over your lunch hour. We did send you guys Grubhub gift cards, so be on the lookout for that in your inbox so you guys can take your lunch and grab those from us. But Kristi, Mohammed, thank you so much for having this conversation and like letting everyone know, hey, it's okay to be different. It's okay to not do the norm. It's okay to branch out a little bit. We will be sending out, hopefully by tomorrow, if not Monday, we will be sending out a full recap of this session. It will include the full recording, a full blog post recapping everything we learned, as well as articles like the Gen Z renting habits and everything like that. So be on the lookout for that, and also be on the lookout in that email for links to sign up for future sessions that we have. But I hope you guys enjoyed it, and we will see you next time.
Thank you.
Bye everyone.